Lauren Sevier, and I am here today to give you my very first book review on a traditionally published book, mostly because I haven't done that many book reviews, and the last few that I've done have been actually of author tubers who are indie published or self-published, and today is a book that I was super excited about and very disappointed with. That's right, House of Salt and Sorrows by Erin Craig. So, I have said repeatedly when I've done these videos that I will never do a straight negative rant review video, and that's still true. There are redeeming qualities to this review and this book. However, it's not going to be a glowing review. Spoiler alert, it's 2 stars. If I thought that there was nothing redeeming about this book, I would have DNF'd it, did not finish, and I wouldn't even be bothering with making this video. But I did think that there were some good aspects of this book, and I really want to hear your thoughts if you agree or disagree with me. Also, I got my hair cut today, and the way the stylist kind of did it is giving me serious, vintage vibes, so I put on some red lipstick. I hope you enjoy. And I do have some videos because I bulk film that are scheduled to be up where I still have long hair, so if you get a little bit of hair length whiplash for the next week or so, that's why. Anyway, let's get right into the review. Just like always, a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So I do want to talk about the good things that I did enjoy about this book before getting into my criticisms, just because I really feel like it's always good to start on a high note. So, the good things. So there was some amateur world building with this book that I felt was really good. I felt like it was headed in a really good direction. I really loved all the nautical tones and things that she interwove throughout the narrative. I also really like the fact that she started on a very somber and gripping note. She started, and this is a review with spoilers, so if you're still wanting to read, click off now, but she started literally in the middle of the main character, Annalise, was at her sister's funeral. So that was very gripping to me right off the bat. Here we have a character who is in emotional turmoil from page 1. This book was written in sort of a Gothic Victorian-esque manner. And it is a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses Man, I really can't talk today. I'm so sorry, you guys, if I stumble over my words because I don't really edit my videos. It's a retelling of the 12 Dancing Princesses, which is a short story that was written by the Grimm brothers. And I'm a huge fan of fairy tales. The 12 Dancing Princesses is one of my favorites, actually, from childhood, and I'm a huge fan of, mermaids. That's literally what I wanted to be when I grew up. Still waiting for that to happen. And so anything that's, nautical, Manor by the Sea. And I love anything Victorian and Gothic. I love it so much, mostly because a lot of my favorite books are classic British literature that have similar aesthetics, even if they're not written in the same manner. And so, anything that's Gothic or Victorian era, I'm trash for. And I am trash for fairy tales. And I am trash for all of the things, the nautical themes that were in this book, okay? So, by all intents and purposes, this should have been a knockout 5-star review for me. And a lot of the things that I liked about it are things that I think are related to that. So there was some amateur world building that I thought she started really well, doing really well. I really liked the descriptions. She had some really good descriptions. She started the book very strong, again, getting us right involved with this character emotionally right from page 1, and that was very, very interesting to me, and it gripped me right from page 1, and that's what you want. You don't want something that drags along for the first chapter or 2, where you're telling your friends, oh, it'll get good, just, you gotta read, to chapter 3 first. Okay, that's not good. No. So she did a very good job of getting us invested early. I will also say that there were some characters that felt like they had their own agency, even if they weren't main characters. Mainly, I mean, like some of the servants in this manor. Mrs. Fisher, she had like her own story, her own family, and even though we don't see her a lot, when we do see her, she's always doing something that, you know, like she's got her own stuff going on, like on the outside, all of that. So that was done very well as well. There were some characters that I really felt had their own agency, even though they weren't shined a spotlight on. And that's something I always really like to see in writing, where like side characters, main characters, supporting characters, characters that we don't get a narrative voice of, that they still feel like they have a purpose in the story. One of my rules when writing and when reading is like, you should never name a character unless they have a point. Like if you give a character a name and they don't have a point in the narrative, even a small one or a recurring one or whatever, I am so aggravated that like I can't. Like that is one of my biggest pet peeves, to say Jane did this or whatever, and then like 2 books in you're like, who the heck is Jane? Like Jane never came back, but you gave her a name. Why would you give her a name instead of like describing her and then moving on? She's a movie extra, you know? You don't give movie extras names. Not generally, unless they have lines or whatever, or purpose. Anyway, so she did a good job at not annoying me that way. That might be all of the good that I can say about this. No, there's one more point. This book was marketed to heck and back. Okay? I got this in my Owl Crate box. And if I didn't, I was going to buy it because I thought, this book is right up my alley. I'm going to love this. And the reason I thought that is because it has blurbs from the author of Caraval. It has blurbs from the author, Melissa Albert, the author of The Hazelwood. Laura Weymouth from The Light Between Worlds. Okay, on the cover. It was literally, here, look, I'm going to make sure before I say something that I'm not making an idiot out of myself, and double checking. Because I get excited about things, and sometimes I say things and I'm like, wait, that wasn't right. Yeah, Penguin Random House published this. It was not only just in Owl Crate. It was also in Book of the Month. The book trailer for this book was in Targets all over the country. It was playing on a screen in Target when I'm shopping for milk and eggs and stuff. I'm seeing a book trailer for this book. The marketing for this was unreal. Unreal. I thought this was going to be like the next Hunger Games, the next Harry Potter, the next Twilight, the next Divergent, the next. Okay? I was so underwhelmed. And there were good parts. And her writing isn't terrible. Because there's some really great descriptive things. Okay? And I think, honestly, what do I think? I think the fact that it was so marketed may have done a disservice because the expectations were much higher than what was delivered. I think if I had realistic expectations of this book and I knew that I was reading it as sort of like a trash, I hate saying trash, but you know those books you're just trash for, okay? That you just like download and you're like, I know that this is like a YA with a romantic subplot with like some stuff going on. And I just really want that. I want something that I know is going to be uncomplicated and follow like a paint by numbers, whatever type thing. And you read it because you really don't want to think too hard. And you don't want a ton of surprises. And you don't want to get in your feels. But you want to occupy your mind. That was this book. And if I had that expectation when I read it, I would not be this disappointed. Honestly. And there's so many good reviews of this book. Like, she is bringing the Victorian Gothic novel with horror themes, like, back to literature. Like, she's the second coming of this. And I didn't see it. I didn't see it. I wasn't here for it. So let's get into the medicine portion of this if we haven't been in it for a minute now already. Okay. Other than the fact that this gets a 2-star review from me, this is going to be a review with spoilers. I think that maybe all of the good reviews from this book may be like, and if you disagree with me, please say so in the comments. I never censor anyone. I never disregard anyone's opinion. Nothing like that. But I think it could be like the power of suggestion that people are raving about this book. And because it comes in like Owl Crate where you get like stuff and you get excited about it and so you feel like you have to like it. But it wasn't really that good, you guys. Like, it starts off really strong. There's like these world building elements that we're getting involved in. You're gripped right from the beginning because you're at her sister's funeral and all this stuff. And then there's a little bit of mystery, you know, because she starts thinking, well, maybe my sister died under mysterious circumstances or whatever and all this stuff. And so it starts off like really strong. And then it takes a turn. Did no one else, first of all, so the romantic subplot is like nonsense. The heat that we felt between these two characters didn't even actually happen. So this is, again, a review with spoilers. So if you haven't clicked off, and you might want to read this book, click off. So I gotta pull my, like, sleeves up. Y'all, I'm so, like, offended by how much I wanted to like this book and didn't. Anyway, so let's talk about the romantic subplot and the romantic lead. He's this guy, seemingly from, like, poor circumstances or whatever, that she meets, who she's immediately attracted to, and whatever. Hello, let's face it, she's been in a house with a bunch of women, like, her whole life. And everyone in the town thinks that they're like psychos and that they're cursed and they're all gonna die, which pretty much they are cursed and all gonna die. That's not a spoiler, but just a general observation from the narrative as a whole. Anyway, so they're all like, oh, these people are like, they're gonna die soon and don't get close to them and they're cursed and whatever. And so like none of the townspeople, they're very ostracized and she's very sheltered. So this is like literally the first dude who doesn't know her sad sob story, and she like clings to him desperately because he's good looking and he doesn't know any better. And she's like, I must be attracted to you. And it's like that attraction that when she's in the delusion that we later find out is a delusion, and there's like all this heat and chemistry between her and this character, he's not even really there. It never even happened. So like all of the relationship and intimacy building stuff like didn't even really happen. Okay? Then old boy was like low-key lying to her basically the whole time. And then let's talk about his like, I'm dead and sacrifice myself to save your sister, but then I'm not dead in the epilogue thing. No. Not here for it. Not here for it. The more believable relationship was the one between her and Fisher. Fisher is the childhood friend who could be something more, and she wanted something more, and all this stuff, and basically was reduced to this like jealous archetype of a guy, like very early on in the narrative, because she was so attracted to this stranger who didn't know about her past. I like the fact that Fisher knew about her past, that Fisher was like invested in who she was as a person throughout the whole thing, and then I was very disappointed to find out that like he'd been dead the whole time. However, I figured that out really early. Really early. So here's like my second point. Now that we've talked about like romantic subplot and partners and whatever, let's talk about the next thing I did not like about this book. It tried really hard to like copy the general. So Harry Potter, each of those books was like almost like a separate mystery, but it had like world building aspects, and it was this fantasy world, and it was like it tried way too hard to copy that template for my liking. So it tried to be like this mystery that gets solved and stuff in this background of this like Victorian Gothic horror, whatever, in this like manor by the sea with these nautical themes and these like, you know, polytheistic like world building things that were being pulled in, and family dynamics being pulled in, and a romantic subplot being pulled in, and it tried way too hard to do way too much, and none of it was fully realized. And the whole like give me all of these red herrings and try to like solve this mystery and stuff and do all of these things that are like supernatural seeming and whatever, it fell so flat, so hard, it really did. And I figured that crap out immediately. As soon as it was written, I was like, oh, so Fisher's not Fisher, he's dead. Whatever it is that's like doing all this like puppeteering, like they're puppeteering him. So, if you're gonna write a mystery novel, write a mystery novel. If you're gonna write a Victorian Gothic horror with supernatural themes, write that. If you want to write a Victorian bodice-ripping romance, write that. But doing all of those things in a standalone novel meant that none of them got the attention. None of those elements got the attention that they deserved. Now, there is a ton of dress porn. As Alexa Dunn would say, dress porn, if you're into that. Okay, because these are the 12 dancing princesses. There's all these freaking girls in this house, and they're all dancing the night away all night long, and there's like shoe porn and dress porn, and they're talking about dresses with pearls and ruffles and whatever, and if you are into that, this is the book for you, but do not think that it is going to be anything like what you imagined. Okay. Now let's talk about the last third of the book and the epilogue, because it really, really aggravated me so much as a reader. So last third of the book, there was a ton of exposition dump, and all of these things, like, there had been, like, hints here and there about this mysterious whatever that's making them dance and whatever, all that, right? So we figure out that old boy ain't who he says he is. He's the son of a goddess and a mortal person, the romantic lead, okay? Even though there were like maybe one or two references to the gods, we don't really know who they are, we don't really know what they want, we don't really know anything about them, and then apparently they come down to earth and whatever, and it's like throwaway stuff throughout the novel and not woven into the actual narrative to where it has any sort of importance, but then it has huge importance for this character reveal, because that's totally the way to do that expositionally right at the end of the novel, right? Then, oh my god, y'all, this book, I wanted it to be good so much. Then there was like exposition dump where it turns out a trickster god made a deal with someone mysterious who made this other goddess of madness make all this stuff happen. So it was all in her head, and everything was in her head, and it was all this exposition dump, and it was all, and Fisher's really dead, and he's been dead this whole time, and so has the guy at the lighthouse, and all this other crap. And it was just like, and then it was like all this backstory stuff that you never get into. It was like, oh, well, this guy thought that the dad did this thing, and so it was like all this stuff that was super important to the actual resolution of the novel and this mystery that you're trying to solve this whole time was never discussed in any of the previous stuff that you've read for the first 2/3 of the book. But all of a sudden at the end of the book, it's all really important, and you get this info dump of exposition at the end instead of the beginning like normal, which is even more annoying. Okay? I read 2/3 of this book. I felt like I had a pretty clear idea of where it was going. I felt like, yes, we're going to get the reveal. It's going to make sense. Everything's going to add up. Nothing added up because you didn't tell me any of it beforehand. It literally was told all before the big reveal. Okay. Then, like, the manor burns down and everything comes to a head and all this crap. And old boy, who is the romantic interest, the one who hasn't actually been dead the whole time, the one who's the romantic interest, he rushes in to say, here's another thing. She has way too many sisters, and there's way too many, like, cutesy little names for them. It gets confusing as hell. But moving on, there's, like, the littlest sister who we all like, and her name is Verity, and we like her because she's like little Haley Joel Osment, who I see dead people, and it's okay, and I have creepy pictures that I draw of them, and whatever, okay? And we like her because she's innocent and unaffected by things, and yet very affected by them, and she's, you know, the cornerstone of that. And she's, like, stuck in the manor as it's, like, burning down. And oh boy, the actual romantic love interest, who's, like, half goddess, half human, or whatever, that we find out, like, 2 chapters and then care about for whatever reason. He, like, runs in and saves her. And he's, like, burned on all, like, almost all of his body. And he, like, dies. It was this act of redemption and, like, sacrifice. And it made me actually feel a spark of something because this main character I felt nothing for. She was just... But I actually felt a spark of something whenever he died, okay? I was like, man, that sucks. And I was also very confused, like, but he's, like, half, like divine or something? Like, shouldn't it be, like, at least harder to kill him? Like, is that, like, a thing? And then his body, like, disappears. But she had seen him die. Like, she held him in her arms. And, like, he died. And then she was going to, like, go and kiss his body or something. But it was gone because the goddess took it. And then it's like she made a wish on us. Okay. Then, so, like, that's a thing. And then the epilogue happens. And it's actually kind of sweet. The way that most of them ended up. And I was like, okay, I'm about this. I'm about y'all ending up this way. Like, this is feeling very, like, okay. You know? And then the author ruined it by, she wishes on a star, and all of a sudden, love interest is alive again, standing in the water, and there's some pretty language about how he was wishing on the same star even harder, and their wishes were so loud that the goddess brought him back to life. If that's her son, why wouldn't she have just brought him back to life anyway? Because she doesn't want him dead. Ooh. All of this to say, it was an okay book. But it was very frustrating for me because I wanted it to be so much more than it was. I did. And I think a lot of the, like, 4 and 5 star reviews that I've read, that these people, I can only assume that it's like the power of suggestion, that they think they should like it, so they like it, and they don't see the very clear flaws in this book. And the thing is, I don't think I would be this aggravated if I didn't think there was potential there. Honestly. Like, my little editing hat is on, and I'm like, first of all, she tried to fit way too much in one book, and this needed to happen, and this needed to happen, and then you needed to do this, and, like, I can see so clearly how all of the very glaring issues with this narrative could have been fixed. And that's what's so frustrating for me as the reader, when I can see that there are very large issues that need to be fixed and how to fix them. And this was published by Penguin Random House. Like, this was not just your run-of-the-mill small publisher. This was a big 5 editor with a major marketing campaign. This person is on the New York Times bestseller list, probably just based off the book subscription boxes that this book got into the boxes of. Honestly, because all you need is like 20,000 books in the first 30 days. And if it was, I know for a fact, in Book of the Month and Owl Crate, plus who knows which other ones, then it debuted as a New York Times bestseller. And it's got major flaws. Major flaws. And so I can't ignore that and give this, a higher rated review. And I gave it 2 stars because there are some really good parts. I mean, the beginning was really, really well done, and there's some really descriptive stuff in there. The language usage is really beautiful. I can see that the author has talent. I can see that she has this concept for this world and the world building. And it felt like it was so relegated to this one story that it was all in her head. And I wanted to be brought into that as the reader. I did. And that's why I didn't think that I had to not film this review, because there are some really good parts of this book. And I think that if you have realistic expectations and you go ahead and you buy it and you read it, then you won't be disappointed. But I think that if you have the expectations that I did, that it was going to be this really great fairy tale retelling, then you're going to be really disappointed. So I think that's my whole message, is have the correct expectations, okay? This is going to be your run-of-the-mill young adults with a romantic subplot, pseudo-mystery that you'll be able to figure out pretty easily. And a lot of the things that you think you know and stuff, around the last third of the book, you're going to get a pretty huge info dump about things that we weren't previously told about, and then everything will make sense. I mean, that's pretty much the basis of that. Anyway, I hope that this review was helpful to you guys. I'm sorry, I knew I said that I wouldn't do a purely negative review, and this may have felt like that, but I did feel like there were redeeming qualities to the book, and so I wanted to still do the review after reading it. If you'd like to know my thoughts, if I wasn't clear enough in this video, then you can check me out on Goodreads. I did do a review there, and I believe on Amazon as well. Also, it'd be really cool if you liked, subscribed, hit the bell, ring the bell. What is the correct terminology for that anyway? I don't know. But anyway, it would be really cool if you rang the bell so you can get notified for any new book reviews or new videos, and you join the family. I would really love that. I hope you like my new haircut. Sorry if it gets a little confusing in the videos to come. Anyway, happy writing, happy reading, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye, guys.